Welcome to Life Lessons from the Srimad Bhagavatam. We continue with our study. Today we will be discussing chapter 87. So that's something that I can tell you straight out. That is that we are coming to the conclusion of the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. Some of you have been on this journey with me for, 24 years now. And it's pretty exciting that after 4 years of study together, we come to this point where we are nearing the conclusion of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. That leaves us with two more cantos, 11 and 12. So welcome Rudra, welcome Centro, Panama, Rimini, meet DW20 and Niranjan. Thank you for joining. Life Lessons from the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is a class that we hold twice weekly on Mondays and Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the US. And so I'm going to chant some verses of invocation, and then we'll discuss this chapter 87 of the 10th canto concerning the prayers of the Personified Vedas. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.3.40. Idam Bhagavatam nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Danyam Stvastyayanam Mahat. The Srimad Bhagavatam is the literary incarnation of God, and it is compiled by Srila Vāsudevāya, the incarnation of God. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people, and it is all blissful, all successful, and all perfect. That is perfect. 1.3.41. Tad idam grahayam asha sutram atmatmavam varam sarvaveri tahasanam sharam sharam samudbhavam sharam sharam samudritam. Shri Vāsudevāya delivered it to his son, who was the most respected among the self-realized, after extracting the cream of all Vedic literatures and the histories of the universe. Wonderful. 1.3.42. Satu samshraveyanasa maharajam parikshitam prapaya pavitam gangyam paritam paramam rishibi. Sukadeva Goswami, the son of Vāsudevāya, in his turn delivered the Bhagavatam to the great emperor Parikshit, who sat surrounded by sages on the bank of the Ganges, awaiting death without taking food or drink. Last verse, 1.3.43. Krishna swadharma pagate dharmo janari bisaha kalo nastarisham esham puranarko danodita. This Bhagavata Purana is as brilliant as the sun. It has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali shall get light from this Purana. So welcome once again to Life Lessons from the Srimad Bhagavatam. We have with us Shama Manjari joining from South Africa. Thank you for being here with us. Shama Manjari says, Hare Krishna, Shri Palad Prabhuji. We have Kirtidat joining us from Norway. Kirtidat sends gratitude. My wife, Shri Gandharvika, joining us from New York City in the United States. Thank you for being here. I am in Florida. I'm in St. Augustine, in south of New York. So thank you for joining. We have Ananda Kirtan joining us from Sydney, Australia. Ananda Kirtan says, Hare Krishna with appreciation. Thank you, Ananda. Thank you for your message again this morning as well. Wishing you strength and resilience to face whatever challenges there may be. With us is Gayatri. Gayatri says, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for joining. All of you, it's a pleasure, an honor, a privilege to have the opportunity to share Srimad Bhagavatam together. Manaki 108 joins us from New York City. Thank you for being here. And then Sky Followers is also with us. Vraj Mandal, M Candy to Crash, I Love Myself Des are also with us on Insta. So thank you all for joining. I was saying earlier, and I'll repeat it again because it's a nice observation, nice milestone. We have 2 more chapters in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. So 3 more chapters. Today we're discussing chapter 87, Praise of the Personified Vedas, and then after that 3, 88, 89, and 90. Then we'll have a few reviews, and we will conclude the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, which is a great milestone for all of us who have been having these classes together over many years now. Janavamata joining us from Dunedin. Janavamata says, Gaura Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Welcome, Janavamata. Thank you for being with us and encouraging us all. So, chapter 87. Today's class will begin with a question. Once I asked Indradyumna Maharaj a question. I asked, how is it, if Krishna is present everywhere, that devotees like Lord Chaitanya, or devotees in the mood of Lord Chaitanya, feel Krishna's separation? Why can't they perceive Krishna's presence everywhere? And Indradyumna Maharaj told a story. He said, I asked that exact question of Srila Prabhupada. It was in Umayapur. We were sitting, Prabhupada was giving a talk in the evening under a large tree, like a pine tree. In New Mayapur, in France, they call it the Prabhupada tree, or Prabhupada's tree. And we were all surrounding Prabhupada, and Prabhupada asked any questions, and I raised my hand and I asked exactly that question. Why is it that Lord Chaitanya is feeling Krishna's separation, if Krishna is present everywhere? And he said, what Prabhupada told me was that this you will understand one day. This is a very advanced subject matter, and one day you will understand. And so Indradyumna Maharaj felt great jubilation because he felt his spiritual master was blessing him. One day you will understand this great mystery of spiritual life, how the pure devotee appreciates Krishna's omnipotence and omnipresence, and at the same time he feels intense separation from him. Today we're discussing chapter 87, and it's very interesting because Parikshit Maharaj asks a question of Sukadeva Goswami, and Sukadeva Goswami says, this question, it was once asked by somebody else. And even more astonishing is that somebody else who asked the question was Narada Muni. He was told about somebody else who had asked the same question. So it's 3 responses removed. But it indicates something, that this is a very important question, and it is a question that has been discussed or is discussed. So yeah, our topic today is a very important question, and we're going to get the answer from the Personified Vedas. And so this chapter 87 is called Prayers of the Personified Vedas. Om namo bhagavate Vāsudevāya. Om namo bhagavate Vāsudevāya. Om namo bhagavate Vāsudevāya. We will discuss this chapter 87 under 3 headings. 1, the question. We've already given a little context there. 2, the answer, verses 12 to 42. And then the effect of hearing that answer. So some actions that follow hearing that answer, verses 43 to 50. So by now, I think you will all be very eager to know, what was the question? This profound question that gets asked over and again. We'll find out just now. Verses 1 to 11. The question. Parikshit Maharaj said, how can the Vedas directly describe the Supreme Personality of Godhead who can't be described with words? In other words, God is so great. His glories are unlimited. They are beyond words. So how can the Vedas accurately, fully describe God? So Parikshit continues, the Vedas are limited to describing the qualities of material nature, but the Supreme Lord is devoid of material qualities, being transcendental. So kind of a follow-up to his initial question. Sukadeva Goswami gives his answer. The Supreme Lord manifested the material intelligence, senses, mind, vital air of the living entities so that they could indulge their desires in sense gratification, take repeated births, and engage in fruitive activities. Those who came before even our ancient predecessors meditated on the same confidential knowledge of the absolute truth. Indeed, anyone who faithfully concentrates on this knowledge will be free from material attachments. So his answer, the question, how is it the Vedas describe God who is beyond words, and the Vedas appear to describe material things, the material nature, the material world, our conditioning, and so on. Sukadeva Goswami says, the Lord manifested the material nature, the material, whatever limited material senses we have, they were manifested by the conditioned souls desiring to enjoy the material nature, not transcendence. Those who want transcendence, they do need to hear transcendental knowledge about Krishna. And when they hear transcendental knowledge, you become free of material contaminations or conditioning. So he's given a partial answer to Parikshit's question. How can the Vedas describe the God who's beyond words or beyond our capability of perceiving? He's saying, well, it's God who created those limited senses, and he created the conditioning for people to enjoy the material nature. But those who really want to be free, they need transcendental knowledge, and the effect of this transcendental knowledge is that it changes the heart. We become free from material attachment. So this Veda is a transcendental subject matter. It has potency. And he says, in this connection, I will relate to you, I will tell you a story about a conversation that once occurred between Sri Narayana Rishi and Narada Muni. Narayana Rishi is the counterpart with Nara. They reside in the Himalayas at a place called Badrikashram. Once, while traveling among the various planets in the universe, Narada Muni went to visit the primeval sage Narayana in his ashram. Narayana has been performing his penance and austerities in this land of Bharata since the beginning of Brahma's day. And all the while he perfectly performs religious duties, and he exemplifies spiritual knowledge and self-control. And he does all of this for the benefit of human beings, both in this world and in the next. He's not doing it for himself. He is a selfless, compassionate sage. So Narada Muni approached this Narayana, and he bowed down to him, and he asked him exactly the same question that you just asked me, Sukadeva Goswami is saying. As the sages listened, Narayana Rishi responded to Narada Muni telling him of an ancient discussion about the absolute truth that took place among the residents of Janaloka. So we've gone from Parikshit and Sukadeva Goswami to Narada Muni and Narayana Rishi, and now from them to the residents of Janaloka. There are 14 planetary systems described in Vedic lore, 7 lower, 7 higher. Of the 7 higher, then Janaloka is one of the topmost. So Bur, Bhuva, Sva are the middle planetary ranges. That's where we reside. We are in Bu, like the waist of the Virat Rupa. Above that is Bhuva, where Gandharvas and Siddhas and Charnas and others reside. And then above that is Sva, Svarga Loka, where the demigods reside. Above that, then there are areas that only sages can go to, even demigods can't go. Mahaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Svargaloka, Satyaloka, or Brahmaloka. So Mahajana Tapa, and then Brahma Satya. These are very, very high planetary systems, and their conversation will be of a very elevated nature. The residents of Janaloka, they don't discuss mundane topics. They discuss transcendence. The personality of Godhead, Narayana Rishi, said, "O Narada, son of Brahma, once long ago in Janaloka, the wise sages who resided there performed a great sacrifice to the absolute truth by vibrating transcendental sounds." So, particularly in Kali Yuga, this is the recommended type of sacrifice to do. We do sacrifice through vibrating transcendental sound. We chant sacred mantras. The most powerful of all mantras is the mantra comprising of the holy name. And that is our process. But here in Janaloka, we see also the sages are performing yajna by vibrating transcendental sound. Aside from the other yajnas, which involve a fire and the chanting of mantras, offerings of oblations such as ghee and grains and other things. Many different sacrifices described in the Bhagavatam. But this is a mantra yajna that the sages of Janaloka are performing, and also recommended for us to engage in that mantra yajna. At that time, a lively discussion arose among the sages of Janaloka. Although these sages were all equally qualified in terms of Vedic study and austerity, and although they saw friends, enemies, and neutral parties equally, they chose one of their number to be the speaker and the rest to become eager listeners. So they will elect Sananda, one of the 4 Kumaras, to speak on this topic that has arisen among them. And remember that the question, Krishna is unlimited. So how can the unlimited be described with words that are limiting, we can say? And then also we have our other limited senses. How can we, or the Vedas, which describe the conditioning of the soul. So they appear to describe things of this world. How can we understand the absolute truth from the Vedas, which appear to describe the mundane world? All right, so we can pause here and just reflect very briefly before we continue. One is the question itself, raised by Parikshit, concerning the nature of the supreme absolute truth and how the Vedas, with their limitations in language, can describe absolute truth who's beyond material qualities. We see from Sukadeva Goswami's answer that the pursuit of the answer to this question underscores a universal and timeless quest. It's been going on throughout the universe, and it has been going on across time, or since the dawn of time. From sages in Janaloka to the discussion between Narada and Narayana Rishi, we see that this inquiry has captivated the minds of enlightened beings throughout the universe. So this question then is a very difficult question, and it's a very profound question regarding the supreme absolute truth. And what is his position? We understand that his transcendence is beyond human language, beyond material concepts. And so how do we explore the ultimate nature of reality with our blunt senses, which trying to understand the unlimited with finite, mundane senses? There is our challenge. So let's go to the second part then, because we are given an answer here, verses 12 to 42. Sanandana replied, after the Supreme Lord withdrew the universe he had previously created. So in Vedic cosmology, then the universes are constantly being created or expanded out from the body of Mahavishnu and then withdrawn. Created and destroyed. So after he withdrew the universes that he had previously created, the Supreme Lord lay for some time as if asleep, and all his energies rested within him in a dormant state. When the time came for the next creation, the Personified Vedas awakened him by chanting his glories, just as the poets serving a king approach him at dawn and awaken him by reciting his heroic deeds. Even to this day, in England, for example, Buckingham Palace, each morning a Scottish guard will play bagpipes by the sovereign's window to awaken the sovereign at a scheduled time. So this is a tradition, and here, 5,000 years ago, or even Sananda speaking beyond then, but in the Bhagavatam, we see this being used as an example. Just as the bards will sing the praises of the king to the sovereign, to awake the sovereign in the morning, in the same way, the Vedas personified go to awaken sleeping Karana Dakashaya Vishnu, to encourage him to begin the process of creation. So now we're going to hear what these personified Vedas sang. So just one thing to note, or maybe I'll highlight it later. I think I'll mention it now. One thing to note, we are speaking here at a time, what's being described here is a time of pre-creation, or at least during a period between creations, because the cycle is endless. There's no beginning. But between cycles, we have the Vedas personified, singing the glories of Lord Vishnu. What does that tell us? It tells us that the Vedas are transcendent to the creation. The Vedas exist before time. They exist before the created universes, indicating that they are transcendental. The sound vibration of the Veda is transcendental. It's not a mundane literature. And therefore, so the question was, how can God, who is infinite, be described with finite words? And we're given an answer that the Veda itself is transcendental. It's pure, it transcends mundane limitations. It existed before time, before creation. And what do the Vedas do? They glorify God. So we'll discuss some of the verses spoken by the personified Vedas. Victory, Jaya, Jaya, victory to you, O unconquerable one. By your very nature, you are perfectly full in all opulences. Therefore, please defeat the eternal power of illusion, who assumes control over the modes of nature to create difficulties for the conditioned souls. You see how compassionate the Vedas are in their prayer. O you who awaken all the energies of the moving and non-moving embodied beings, sometimes the Vedas can recognize you as you sport with your material and spiritual potencies. This perceivable world is identified with the Supreme because the Supreme Brahman is the ultimate foundation of all existence, remaining unchanged as all created things are generated from it and at last dissolved into it, just as clay remains unchanged by the products made from it again and again merged into it. Thus, it is toward you alone that the Vedic sages direct all their thoughts, words, and acts. After all, how can the footsteps of men fail to touch the earth on which they live? So they're describing how the Lord is the source of creation. He expands out as his energies, and although Krishna expands as his energies to create the world, he's not changed. He's not affected by that. He remains transcendental to the material nature. They say, O master of the three worlds, the wise get rid of all misery by diving deep into the nectarian ocean of topics about you, which wash away all the contamination of the universe. What then to speak of those who, having by spiritual strength rid their minds of bad habits and freed themselves from time, are able to worship your true nature, O Supreme One, finding within it uninterrupted bliss. So I'm not going to be able to read all of these prayers. Dear Lord, some fortunate souls have gotten relief from the fatigue of material life by diving into the vast ocean of your pastimes, which you enact when you manifest your personal forms to propagate the unfathomable science of the self. These rare souls, indifferent even to liberation, renounce the happiness of home and family because of their association with devotees, who are like flocks of swans enjoying the lotus of your feet. Wonderful. Simply by constantly thinking of him, the enemies of the Lord attain the supreme truth, whom sages fixed in yoga worship by controlling their breath, mind, and senses. Similarly, we Shrutis, who generally see Similarly, we Shrutis, so Shrutis are the personified Vedas, who generally see who is all-pervading, will achieve the same nectar from your lotus feet that your consorts are able to relish because of their loving attraction to your mighty serpentine arms. For you look upon us and your consorts in the same way. This is very, very profound. So just take note, just highlight this. In this verse, the Shrutis, personified Vedas, are expressing a desire to associate with Krishna intimately as his consorts, his gopis, basically. They're praying to be accepted as gopis. And when Krishna manifests his pastimes 5,000 years ago, different groups of souls are able to join him in those pastimes, including as gopis. So the eternal gopis come with him from the spiritual sky, but some are souls who are entering into the eternal pastime. The sages of Dandakaranya forest, they are one of those groups. The daughters of some demigods, the daughters of Varuna, who are attracted to Matsya, and then the Shrutis, who prayed to be accepted as gopis. This is their prayer here. I'll read it again. Simply by thinking of him, the enemies of the Lord attain the same supreme truth, whom sages fixed in yoga worship by controlling their breath, mind, and senses. Similarly, we Shrutis, who generally see you as all-pervading, will achieve the same nectar from your lotus feet that your consorts are able to relish because of their loving attraction to your mighty serpentine arms. For you look upon us and your consorts in the same way. Then they say, when a person realizes you, they no longer care about their good or bad fortune arising from past pious and sinful acts, since you alone control this good and bad fortune. Such a realized devotee also disregards what ordinary living beings may say about them. Every day they live to fill their ears with your glories, which are recited in each age by the unbroken succession of Manu's descendants, and thus you become your devotee's ultimate salvation. So how wonderful. We can pause here. The Vedas, like Krishna, are also eternal. They are transcendental. They exist before creation. And so this then indicates to us the profound truth of the timeless and divine nature of Vedic wisdom. And it should impel us to immerse ourselves in the study of the Vedic teachings given in their essential form here as Srimad Bhagavatam, and that we should immerse ourselves in the glorification of Krishna as revealed in the Vedas. And when we do so, we connect with an eternal source of spiritual guidance, leading us towards transcendence, transcending this mundane realm. So the eternal Veda illuminates our path, helping us transcend the material nature and to realize the divine reality that is Krishna. Okay, let's go to the third section, verses 43 to 50. And I call this action, but it's the effect of hearing this answer. Narayana Rishi is speaking to Narada Muni, and he said, having heard these instructions about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the sons of Brahma, these were the residents of Janaloka, now understood their final destination. They felt perfectly satisfied and honored Sananda with their worship. Thus, the ancient sages who travel in the upper heavens distilled this nectarian and confidential essence of all the Vedas and Puranas. And as you wander the earth at will, dear son of Brahma, Narada Muni, you should faithfully meditate on these instructions concerning the science of the self, which burn up the material desires of all people. Now, Sukadeva Goswami says, Sukadeva Goswami said, when Narayana Rishi ordered him in this way, the sage Narada, whose vow is as heroic as a warrior's, accepted the command with firm faith. Now successful in his purposes, he thought about what he had heard and replied to the Lord as follows. Narada said, I offer my obeisances unto him of spotless fame, the Supreme Lord Krishna, who manifests his eternal, all-attractive personal expansion so that all living beings can achieve spiritual perfection. So Sukadeva Goswami continues, after saying this, Narada Muni bowed to Narayana Rishi and also to his disciples, and then returned to the hermitage of Vāsudevāya. Vāsudevāya is the disciple of Narada. He's also the father of the speaker here, Sukadeva Goswami. Vāsudevāya is an incarnation, the literary incarnation, and he respectfully greeted his guru, Narada Muni. He offered him a seat, which Narada accepted, and then Narada described to Vyas what he had heard from Narayana Rishi. And he concluded by saying, thus I have replied to the question you asked of me concerning how the mind can have access to the absolute truth, which is indescribable by material words and devoid of material qualities. And the answer, in essence, that is Krishna. He transcends the material nature, and so does the Veda, which extols his glories. He eternally watches over the universe. He exists before the universe, during its manifestation, as well as after it has been withdrawn, after its manifestation or after its destruction. He is the master of both unmanifest material energy and of the spiritual soul. And after sending the creation, after creating, and he enters into it, and he accompanies each living entity as Paramatma. There he creates material bodies and then remains as the regulator of material existence. Sukadeva Goswami says, by surrendering to him, one can escape the embrace of material illusion from just as a dreaming person forgets their own body. One who wants liberation from fear should constantly meditate on Krishna, who is always on the platform of perfection and never subject to material birth. So we can pause again and try to summarize. After hearing Parikit's answer about the Supreme Absolute, truth, we see that there is transformation when the sons of Brahma heard the answer, when they received instruction about the Supreme Lord from Narayana Rishi. The verses say they were filled with deep understanding about their ultimate destination. This realization brought them to a state of satisfaction, leading them to honor Sananda with their worship, recognizing the significance of what they had received. Narada Muni, how did he respond? He took up a vow, the vow of a heroic warrior, accepting the command of Narayana Rishi with firm faith and contemplating everything that he had received. And he also has this commitment to share what he's learned with others. He goes to meet his disciple Vāsudevāya. He visits Vāsudevāya's hermitage and he shares with them what he had learned from the rishis, the sons of from Narayana Rishi in Badri. And so we can learn from this that this is a journey to transcendence, and the journey involves understanding absolute truth that is timeless and universal. This is a timeless, universal path. It guides us towards transcending material attachments and illusions and achieving spiritual perfection. And so the process is to hear and to contemplate, and then there is some action as well. Surrender, service. We try to apply what we've learned through surrendered service. So let's conclude with a prayer that may further summarize what we've been discussing. Beloved Krishna, from Parikit's question repeated by sages throughout the universe, we ponder the indescribable nature of the Supreme Absolute Truth. From Sananda, we learn that the Vedas, which glorify you, existed before creation, revealing that their wisdom is eternal, a revelation that is divine. Illuminate our hearts with these eternal truths, guiding us on the path to spiritual enlightenment and liberation. From the praises of the Shrutis prior to creation, we further learn that your divine attributes are beyond material qualities. You, who are invoked by the chanting of Vedic hymns, transcend the limitations of material existence. May we approach these sacred teachings with reverence and devotion, recognizing the eternal wisdom preserved through the ages for the benefit of souls. Narada's determination after hearing this response teaches us the power of unwavering faith and devotion. Just as Narada Muni accepted the command of Sri Narayana Rishi with firm faith, let us too be steadfast in our devotion to you. May we, like Narada, share this profound knowledge with others, spreading the light of divine wisdom. Through constant remembrance and surrender to you, may we transcend the dualities of material existence and attain the ultimate goal of life, eternal service to you, the supreme absolute truth. Let me acknowledge some of you who joined us after I started speaking. And in the meantime, if you have any questions or reflections, put them into the chat and we can further explore. Don't be shy about sharing. So we have Shamalaki here who says pranams, and wow, I love that Srila Gurudev had the same question. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a nice story. And Gurudev always becomes very joyful when he remembers that story, remembers sitting with Prabhupada under the tree, and Prabhupada's answer he takes as a blessing, like a benediction, a guarantee. Prabhupada said, that you will understand someday. And Prabhupada and Gurudev says, when he heard that reply, he just wanted to dance and dance. It's like, oh, Prabhupada says I will understand. Prabhupada says I will come to a point where I'll be able to understand this very advanced subject matter. Thank you, Shamalaki. Vijay says, Jai Shri Ram from India. Thanks for joining us, Vijay. Grateful to have you here, joining us from India. By the way, Vijay, I called you Ram Vijay. By the way, Vijay, I'm currently in Florida in the United States, but the others on this call, they're from across the world. Norway and South Africa and Australia, New Zealand. Here we have Dayal Nitai joining us from Ukraine. Dayal Nitai says, Hare Krishna. Thank you for being with us, Dayal Nitai. When Dayal Nitai comes online, I ask everyone to say a prayer for devotees serving under very, very difficult circumstances in Ukraine. Nikunja, joining us from Auckland, New Zealand, says, Hare Krishna, Shri Prahlad Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Nikunja. Thank you for being with us. Shamalaki says, are every soul a seed of a particular tree, belonging to a particular Krishna's vision or incarnation as relationship with Krishna? Is it eternal or is it progressive, shifting from neutral, then Vatsalya, up to Gopi level? That, Shamalaki, is a very profound question and one that is subject to much discussion. If I'm honest with you, I can say that the answer is not entirely settled. When we read different sections of our Acharya's writing, we get different understandings. So if I were to speak an answer in absolute terms, then I would be suggesting a level of certainty as in the teachings, or not certainty, but a level of this question being absolutely clear. That's not really the case. There are indications that, like when we read Brihad Bhagavatamrita, it's very clear that that devotee, Gopakumar, was a cowherd boy. Even though he went throughout the universe and entered into different relationships with Krishna, in dasya, even neutrality, but then in servitude and in friendship, or different gradations of service. So from neutrality to different gradations of servitude. Vaikuntha, where servitude is very, very absolute. Everyone is in awe and reverence. To Ayodhya, where the mood is overall reverential, but there are some friendships between Ram and Sugriva and Vibhishana and so on. And there's a strong Vatsalya as well. Ram has much affection for Dasarath and his mothers, Kaushalya, even Kaikeyi and Sumitra. And then there is some conjugal Sitaram. There is some Madhurya there. But overriding the mood tends to be a dasya, servitude or veneration. Ram is a king, and he holds that as an overriding mood in all of his dealings. When we get to Dvarka, this is lessened a little more. So the Madhurya becomes it is still constrained by dasya, but it becomes a little more open. Similarly, there is a stronger friendship between Krishna and Arjuna, or between Krishna and Uddhava. And there is a strong vatsalya between Krishna and Vāsudevāya and Devaki. Yes, it is also constrained by formality. But when we get to Vrindavan, then that dasya ras, the servitude, is almost fully removed. Some in Vrindavan are also in dasya ras, but the other rasas become much more prominent. Friendship, parental love, conjugal love, they are unfettered by any sense of awe or veneration on account of Krishna's divinity. So when Gopakumar travels through these different domains, he serves in Vaikuntha, he serves in Dvaraka, Ayodhya, Dvaraka. He's there, but he's not fully satisfied. He tries to establish himself, he tries to fit in, he tries to serve according to the protocols that he sees are the norm around him. But what happens is, inevitably, during his stay in each of these places, he ends up breaking the protocol. He, for example, when he's standing before Vaikuntanath in Vaikuntha, one day he just takes out his flute and plays it as a cowherd melody. And he gets severely chastised for that by the servants of Vaikuntanath, by the servants of Narayan. Although he sees that Vaikuntanath actually liked it. Everyone else chastises him, but he sees just from a distance, from the eyes of Vaikuntanath, that he actually enjoyed his cowherd tune. But he can't express it anymore, and he doesn't feel that he fits in anymore. And Narada Muni says, you're actually not from here. You should move on. So he goes to Ayodhya, and then something similar happens. He's in Dvaraka, and just one day he wants to hug. He sees Krishna sitting on the throne as Dvarakadish, the great ruler, the great king. And as a cowherd boy, which he doesn't know he is, but as a cowherd boy who has a friendship relationship with Krishna, he just wants to run up and hug Dwarkanath, which makes everyone upset, and they feel that he's acting out of, he doesn't have the proper decorum and etiquette. And then he gets a hint that he's actually not supposed to be there. So he goes to Mathura. Finally, he arrives in Vrindavan, and he feels he's arrived home. So in that story, we have a sense that the relationship is fixed. It's fixed for that particular soul. It's not changing. It is what it is. And he might find himself in different places throughout this universe and beyond, but his heart will always be yearning for that relationship that is his eternal relationship with Krishna. So that's a general understanding. Then we ask, well, what about in this movement? We're all serving under the guidance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Rupa and Sanatan, Srila Prabhupada. What is our relationship with Krishna? Because Sri Chaitanya, the Goswamis of Vrindavan, they are all serving in Gopi Bhav or Manjari Bhav. And what I'll say is this, even in Chaitanya's mission, in his time, some of his devotees were cowherd boys, some were in Dasyaras. The Lord Chaitanya's associate, Murari Gupta, he was a great devotee of Ram, and he tried to change his affections as affections to Krishna, but he couldn't. And he approached Lord Chaitanya crying and said, I can't. And Lord Chaitanya said, that's okay. You are a Ram Bhakta, you are Hanuman. Don't try to change it. Something similar happened with the brother of Rupa and Sanatan. His name was Vallabh. He was a Ram Bhakta. He tried to become a Radha Krishna Bhakta, but his heart wasn't there. And so these stories indicate that the relationship with Krishna is fixed. Then, yeah. So that's a general understanding. But we also have hope that whatever it might be, that by serving under the guidance of Srila Prabhupada and Rupa and Sanatan and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whatever our relationship or non-relationship might be, that it can be attuned to become our Vrindavan relationship with Krishna, a relationship of serving and supporting those pastimes in the mood of the residents of Vrindavan. That is our sadhana. And so there is also a sense that even if Dasya may be there, by the grace of the Brajbasis, by the grace of Radha Yugal Kishore, Radha Krishna in Vrindavan Dham, that why not? That we can also be given entry. Lakshmi prayed for entry, even though she is in Dasyaras. She prayed for entry into Vrindavan. And the reason why she was not given entry is not because, oh no, you already have a fixed relationship. It's already decided. Rather, the answer for why she was not given entry was, you haven't done the right sadhana. You have done tapas, you have done austerity, but you need to do the tapas, you need to do the sadhana of Tishtan Vraje Taranuragi Jananugami, of serving the residents of Vrindavan. By getting the grace of the residents of Vrindavan, you will be given entry and you will be able to serve in those eternal pastimes. So that is where we emphasize, that's where we place our energy. So thank you for your question, Shamalaki, great question. Kirtida says, beautiful, thank you, Kirtida. Grateful to have you here every time. It's very, very encouraging. Chanavamata says, thank you as always for sharing the nectar with us. While you were speaking, I got the realization that the message and teachings of the Bhagavatam Shastra become sweeter and we receive more profound realizations and revelations and tangible connection with the Lord and his devotees when we share these teachings with others. Yeah, that's a very nice insight, Janavamata. And that's my experience as well. When I study, I get some level of insight and realization. When I share, it's a whole different level. And yeah, there's some blessing that comes, some special blessing that comes when we take it upon ourselves. Well, we take the order of Srila Prabhupada and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to represent these teachings to others. And there's some mercy that's given when we do that. Let me just acknowledge some of our participants on Instagram. Priyanka Chakraborty 908, Amrita Sundari, Kushava Indragopi Devidasi, Denis Shavalov, Ananta Vasudev, Im Pushpak, Hare Krishna. Oh yeah, okay. And then from Detroit we have Uma Sahitya. Rama Dasu says, Hare Krishna. Thank you for being here, Uma. Camila joining us. We met Camila in Rishikesh, so really grateful to see Camila here with us. From, where are you, Camila? You're in Norway, or, yeah, I think it was Norway or somewhere there in Scandinavia. Thanks for joining, Camila. Eyes Shalanki. Mudit 2526, Dhruv Negi 17, Tej Shri, Advaita Srini, Rasa Richard, Aparajit, Crimes Organized, Umesh Sahitya, Nahish, Defragmented, Manishka. Thank you all for joining us. Let me just see if there's any comment or question. No. Okay, so one last check-in here. Shama Manjari says, thanks, Prabhu. Beautiful prayer in class. Thank you, Shama Manjari. Shama Lucky says, wonderful explanation. Thank you, Prabhu. You're most welcome. And then Dayal Hari says, Hari Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, dear Prabhuji. Thank you for joining us, Dayal Hari. Grateful to have you with us today. May you all deepen your taste for hearing this Grantaraj, this king of Vedic literatures, Srimad Bhagavatam. May you deepen your taste for chanting the holy names with attention and with devotion, that you receive taste. May you deepen your appreciation for serving Sri Vigraha, for serving the deity who appears to us in our homes and temples to accept our service. May you deepen your appreciation for the holy dhams, where Krishna's pastimes are performed. Both the eternal dhams and then those places that become dhams on account of devotees installing deities and performing services there. And may you deepen your relationships with Vaishnavas, taking every opportunity to express appreciation for Vaishnavas and to serve Vaishnavas. And with all of these practices, practicing these angas of bhakti, may your heart soften and that you're moved to share the treasures of bhakti with others. We'll see you Monday. Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi.